Hello, my dear folks. Welcome to the show, Jack Chow on East West with G&E TV. Yes, for the past few months, especially for the past few weeks, the immigration stuff, the immigration issue has been on the rise. Problems are on the rise, especially in the border area, on the line of Texas, Arizona, all the way to California. We're facing some kind of a challenge. The influx of illegal, of the illegal, undocumented illegal, whatever, how do you call them, crossings are becoming a headache. ICE is trying to resolve it, and Border Control is trying to resolve it. And in Los Angeles, in California, basically, we're talking about down there at the border, people are paying lots of attention, they're giving lots of efforts. So what is the nature of the problem? What has caused it? And what's the consequences of it? Is there any resolutions? Should there be, what could be the resolution? All questions are issued from all corners. And there are, of course, there are lots of people becoming very vocal, advocating from the other directions, one direction, the other directions, all kinds of, it's a variety of everything. To get to the answer though, to touch the very bottom of the issue, the same thing. I ask for professional explanation or analysis. Joining me is my good friend, lawyer, attorney, Stephen Cho of Orange County, a big supporter of G&E TV. Even during the early days, back many years when we were in the other building, he is the supporter of the show. Welcome, Steve, one more time to the show.
Thank you.
So, what kind of problem are we facing? We know the illegal border crossing has been a problem ever since. But how come, what's the reason why all of a sudden it's brought on the table so seriously?
Well, this latest wave of illegal immigration or undocumented crossings, if you want to call them that, is that these are mostly people from Central America, not from Mexico. They make their way through Mexico past the border into the United States. They're mainly from three countries: Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And all three countries are experiencing, mostly economic problems, drug problems, and also government. There's still problems between government and some leftist rebels still holding out in these countries. So there's still quite a bit of problems going on down there. But the biggest problem, I believe, is economics. And the vast majority of the people coming in on this latest wave are kids, as young as 5. I've seen and going into the teens, and the incentive for them to come is that they have one or both parents already are in the United States, whether here legally or illegally, I don't know.
I see. All right.
Yeah, and so and I believe there's another issue involved, is that because of the DREAM Act, when President Obama enacted the DREAM Act and gave the temporary protection to what they call the dreamers, the kids who were brought to the United States with their parents much earlier when they were little kids, and they grew up. They basically grew up in the United States as Americans, except they just don't have any status. And and without Congress support, Obama could only afford them temporary status and wait, and they were still trying to work that out. And I believe that probably gave a lot of people false impression that, oh, well, if they're giving young kids these temporary status, then they could give my kids status. So I believe that's a mistaken assumption on their parts, but unfortunately, that's how it's perceived, I believe. Also, one other thing is you have these unscrupulous, they call them coyotes or coyotes.
Coyotes,
right?
yeah.
The smugglers. And they use that as a way to recruit these people and say, you know, pay us money, we'll help you get into the United States. And so there are a lot of different factors involved. But the main point is, you know, we're dealing with a humanitarian crisis here because we're talking about mostly young people, if not very little children. I read an article in LA Times about the LA Times reporter went to Mexico to talk to these people who are waiting to come to the United States. And one group that he was talking to, they got broken up because the Mexican police came after them. And the reporter described how this 5-year-old boy lost his father because his father ran off because the police came. So the boy was left by himself. The boy was able to find somebody who gave him a cell phone to use. He called his relative here in the United States. And after the conversation, the reporter asked the little boy what he's going to do. He said he's still going to continue to come to the United States all by himself, even if his father's gone.
Wow.
Because his relative told him, just make your way up here. A 5-year-old little boy.
A 5-year-old. Oh my God.
So it tells you the determination that they have, their disregard for their own well-being and lives, because they see the shiny hill, and the
halo.
Yeah, and I think they think they're within reach because they're in Mexico already, and so all they have to do is cross the border. And what they don't really know is what's going to happen to them when they come across the border. And I believe the estimate right now is 50,000, around 50,000 of these.
More. The number are bigger now.
Yeah, okay, it's bigger now. So and they have to be processed, and then determinations have to be made as to, you know, what are the backgrounds of these people and whether or not they can be considered asylum seekers.
I see.
If not, they will be returned. But it's a logistical nightmare because you're dealing with a tidal wave, and they're all coming through mostly Texas because that's the biggest border we have with Mexico.
All right. Okay.
And so it's a mess.
Yeah,
You know?
we know that. Yes, of course. To describe, see the whole picture, it is a mess already, and it is a surge of the messy situation. That's all of a sudden. It's been a problem ever since history. Because many years ago, when I first came, driving down south to San Diego, as you're approaching, you see signs of the border crossing, say drive carefully, slow down, stuff like that.
We all see that.
On one hand, you see some deers running across, and on the other, you see signs of human trafficking or kind of running running across, right? That was the problem. That is the problem ever there. But right now we're talking about the surge. All of a sudden, the burst, call it an influx, right? And some say it was the wrong message the administration has delivered. Do you think that could be number one to be blamed?
Well, there's so many components, so many layers to this story, to this problem.
All right.
I don't think you can pinpoint it to any one particular problem. I'll give you an example. This is way back, about more than 10 years ago. I was listening to this radio program one day, and it was National Public Radio, and they were talking about immigration back then, illegal immigration back then, and they were in this southern town. I believe they were in either Alabama or Louisiana, and of course, you know, people in the South, they're much more illegal immigration, and also back then, you know, more than 10 years ago, they did not have as large of a Hispanic population as they do now.
Yeah, all right.
But even then, there was already an immigration, if you will, of Hispanics moving into all rest of the throughout the rest of the country, and the host of the radio show interviewed this two people, a construction owner, a construction company owner, and a realtor who was selling the homes that the construction company was building. Well, the construction company owner, confesses. He says, yeah, some of the people he hired, he thinks they may not be legal, but they have the paperwork. So he says, since they have the paperwork, he hired them, and he said because they're willing to work cheaper, and than your average construction worker.
Sure.
And so of course he's going to hire them. It's economic sense. It makes more economic sense to us.
It is not a simple issue as you can pinpoint one problem, right?
Right.
And basically what we're talking about so far is that the job market has the incentive of taking advantage of that, and that will in turn become an incentive to them to come over, right? All right. So back to my audience. Today we are in a discussion of the border control problem, namely the surge of recent influx from southern American countries such as El Salvador and Honduras, and also Guatemala. Those countries, they gathered at the border of Mexico and ready to go, right? So ready to come over. So anyway, joining me is my good friend Stephen Zhou, attorney at law of Orange County. So let's take a short break. When we come back, and we'll peel this onion layer by layer, see what's inside, or if there's any information. So stay with us.